All right, let's jump right in. Picture this. You're coming out of a devastating world war, and you have to try and build a new foundation for the entire world, one that's based on dignity, not just power. Well, that was the incredible dream behind the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, a massive promise made to every single person on Earth.
I mean, just listen to that. It's so ambitious, it's beautiful, and it's really the bedrock of how we think about human rights today. But, and this is a big but, there was a fundamental catch, a huge weakness in this amazing promise.
And that's the thing, right? The Universal Declaration was exactly that, a declaration. It was a statement of principles, a kind of moral North Star, but it wasn't a legally binding treaty. It had no teeth. No country could actually be dragged into court and held accountable for violating it.
So the United Nations knew they had to fix this. The goal was to take all those powerful ideas from the UDHR and forge them into actual hard international law. And the answer they came up with was two major global treaties.
And these are what they came up with, the International Covenants. They were adopted in 1966, and they are basically the legal engines that give the Universal Declaration its power. You can think of the UDHR as the grand vision statement, and these two covenants as the legally enforceable contracts. And all three of them together, that's what we call the International Bill of Human Rights.
Okay, so to make all these rights actually work in the real world, the people designing the system split them into two different but totally equal categories. Each of those categories got its own treaty, its own covenant, just to make it super clear what countries had to do.
And here they are. The UN basically split the human rights playbook in two. On one side, you've got the ICCPR. That's all about your civil and political rights, your freedom from the government messing with you. We call these first-generation rights. Then, on the other side, you've got the ICESCR, which is all about what you need to actually live and thrive, your economic, social, and cultural rights. And those are often called second-generation rights.
Here's maybe a simpler way to think about the big difference here. Civil and political rights are often called negative rights. Now, that doesn't mean they're bad. It just means the state has to step back and not interfere. It's your freedom from things, and these rights are supposed to be protected right away. Economic and social rights, though, they're called positive rights. They actually require the state to step in and take action. It's your right to things like education or healthcare, which, countries are supposed to build up over time. And this tension is at the heart of so many political debates, isn't it? What is the role of the state?
So let's make this more real. Under the ICCPR, we're talking about your fundamental right to life, your freedom from torture, the right to a fair trial if you're accused of something, the freedom to think and say what you believe, and the right to actually participate in how your country is run. It's all about protecting you as an individual.
And then, on the other side of the coin, you have the ICESCR. These rights are all about basic human dignity and well-being. So, the right to work for a fair wage, the right to social security, and the rights to have enough food, housing, healthcare, and education. The absolute building blocks of a decent life.
Okay, so we've got these two really powerful legal documents. But how do we get these rights off the paper and onto the pavement? How do they actually work in the real world?
Well, it definitely didn't happen overnight. After the UN adopted them way back in 1966, it took a full 10 years for enough countries to sign on and make them official international law. And you can see the ripple effects. I mean, look at India. When they ratified the covenants in 1979, these global standards started to directly shape their own constitution and court decisions.
See, the crucial point here is accountability. When countries sign these treaties, they're not just making a nice promise. They are legally obligated to send in regular reports to special UN committees. There's one for each covenant. These committees then go over a country's progress and can totally call them out on their failures.
And their power isn't just top-down, from the UN to governments. These covenants become an absolutely vital tool for activists on the ground. They give them the legal backbone for movements demanding everything from prison reform to fair wages. It gives people a global standard they can use to hold their own governments accountable.
But, and we all know this, we have to be realistic. We see rights being violated all the time, every day. So if these treaties are actual law, why is that still happening? And this brings us to the system's biggest challenges and, frankly, its biggest criticisms.
So what is the core problem? It's something called the enforcement gap. Imagine this. Your rights are violated. You manage to file a complaint with a UN committee. The committee investigates, they hear the whole case, and they even rule in your favor, finding that the country was at fault. But then what? And this is the huge but. The UN has no police force. It can't punish a country or force it to do anything. In the end, it all comes down to whether that country is willing to cooperate.
And the challenge is, they do not stop there. Powerful countries can sometimes just ignore rulings. Other countries will sign on, but with reservations, which are basically legal loopholes to get out of the parts they don't want to do. And that idea of progressive realization for economic rights, it's supposed to give countries time, but it can easily become an excuse for just delaying forever. We'll get to it someday that never comes. On top of all that, there's this long-standing criticism that the whole system is really based on a Western individualistic view of the world.
So, with all these very real limitations, what is the ultimate legacy of these covenants? I mean, are they a success or are they a failure?
Despite everything, their single greatest achievement it's just undeniable. It's revolutionary, really. The covenants took the idea of human rights out of the world of philosophy and turned it into a matter of international legal obligation. They set a global standard that says your dignity is not some gift from a government that can be given or taken away. It is your legal right.
And that leaves us with one final and absolutely crucial question. The world has the laws. The global contract for our rights has been written. It's been signed by most countries on Earth. So, what's next? What is it going to take to finally close that gap between the promise on paper and the reality on the ground for every single person?